So Congress puts together within their bodies, whether it's the Senate or the House of Representatives, they put together a series of committees. And it's important for us to understand why they do committees. And I think it's pretty easy to address. First of all, we do that to streamline debate. It's too large. Congress is really too big to effectively debate all of the proposals and all the bills that come through. I don't think anybody would want to sit through all of those things that are being discussed, and so therefore they spread those out among smaller committees, and the committees can look at these bills and they can recognize this is a really good bill that we want to push through and we want to bring to the floor for everybody to hear. And they can look at those other ones and they can decide that is a really bad bill. Let's get rid of that. Let's not even waste everybody's time with that one. And it's also important to recognize that the volume of work is just too much for them to be able to put on the floor of all 435 members of the House. And they want to streamline it to make it more their time more efficient. There's also a lot of different issues that come up. There are some people that do not care about environmental issues, so they don't want to hear all the debates and all the bills that are brought up on environmental issues. Yet there are others that are very passionate about it. And then there are others that do not care as much about military spending, and so they would not want to listen to all the bills that come up on military spending or maybe education. So they won't volunteer to be on a committee for one of those. Certainly they'll listen to it when it comes to the main floor, but they don't have the passion to sit down and discuss every single issue that comes over in that committee. And so therefore they disperse those issues out to those that are really interested in them, and it keeps them excited about what they're working on, and it also helps them pour a stronger effort into those, and therefore they can be more efficient. We have a group of standing committees, and so in the first 5 years of our nation's history, every bill was assigned to a special committee. But very quickly, we had committee after committee after committee, and there were way too many that were going on. And so Congress began to establish what we called standing committees or permanent committees that were able to handle similar bills that came up around the table. And so it depends on the Congress and the session as to how many committees there are. There's no set amount. However, the majority party almost always gets the majority in these committees. And so they do that intentionally to try to give themselves an advantage based off of the way the voters have voted in Congress. So when we have a majority, or when we have a committee, and let's say it's a committee on education reform, they are going to put 5 members of the majority party and 4 members of the minority party. So the representation is very equal, fairly equal, but there's always that slight advantage in that committee. There are some committees that are more desirable than others. And if you are a rookie on Capitol Hill, you are going to get one of the less desirable. That's just part of the way things are. And so therefore, you get some say depending upon the level of interest that others have in the committees that you want to be in, but otherwise you can get stuck on one that may not be quite as enjoyable. When we have a joint committee, this means that we have members of both the House and the Senate meeting together on a committee working on something together. And so therefore, joint committees are extremely important because they are usually working together to try to find a compromise in order to get something accomplished. Typically, these joint committees are set up in a temporary fashion. They're not something that is a standing committee, but they will often be set up in order to work through a bill. Now, I should tell you there are a couple of standing joint committees for things like the Library of Congress that are part of the routine business of Congress, and they're typically not very exciting and not a very desirable committee to be on. But for the majority of these committees that are joint committees, they're put up for the last minute discussions or the hard debates that need to happen between the Senate and the House in order to make sure that the work actually gets done.